how does bundling fundamentally help tackle the challenges of churn and retention right now? And what are the ways that it really differs from the bundling strategies of old, from only a few years ago? Guy, you have some really great perspective starting as far back as your days at Screen Digest. I would love to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because fundamentally, it's not different, but it's different in every way. Let me explain what I mean. The rationale for bundling, I think, is the same. So the rationale is churn reduction. The rationale is cost control for the consumer, because obviously we are hitting a ceiling in terms of the number of paid streaming services that consumers are willing and able to pay for. So giving them a 30% discount when they take 3 or 4 is another great strategy, both to attract new customers and keep the ones you have. But it's fundamentally different because if we go back to those pay TV days, you had a middleman. The pay TV operator effectively was a middleman on which the various services were hosted, be they channels or other things. And today we don't. And the importance of the middleman was the single unified interface. A single unified interface for content discovery that was a very familiar system, a grid system for the old EPGs. And also not entirely unified, but a much simpler environment for ad buying, as the industry now is moving into that space. So in that respect, the bundle is very different from those old school bundles, but the rationale for doing it, I believe, is fundamentally the same.
Thanks, Guy. John, what are your thoughts in terms of why bundle, why now? How does it differ from the past?
Well, I think it's different from the past in that no one wanted to bundle last time. So if you go back even several years ago, everybody realized that Netflix was a bona fide business. All of the streaming platforms didn't want to cooperate. Each of them wanted to be the next Netflix or take over from Netflix, and the cable companies all wanted to, strangle streaming in the crib, try to rule that behavior out so they could keep their business model going. Today that hasn't worked at all. And if you look back, I think kind of the turning point for me was when David Zaslav said in a press conference, I think it was in 2021, that the independent streaming platforms need to think about bundling on our own before someone does it to us. And I thought that was a very telling 180-degree reversal from that. There's this kind of capitulation now, I think, where all the independent platforms have realized that they don't have the scale, and it will be really hard to get the scale with so much competition that Netflix has. And it's that scale that you need in order to be more resistant to churn, in order to make a bigger profit. So I think that's the reason that people want to do it now. I think that it's very fortunate that this capitulation is coming around at a time that consumers really need that simplicity more than ever. And it's a way that if you can make things simpler for people, you can offer them a discount financially as well. But the simplicity is something that's valuable enough that people will be willing to pay for it. So I think it could be also a really good way for these companies to bolster their bottom lines, because God knows they can't really afford to cut their prices right now.
Yeah, and I think you touch on something valid there, where it's tangible for a lot of consumers who have overload in a number of dimensions, right? So they've gone from the content overload of old, or not so old, of recent times, to now billing relationship overload and everything else. And so I think simplification is very tangible to a lot of consumers, whether you're a heavy streaming video consumer or not. Ramiz, what are your thoughts on why bundle? What are the justifications, and how does it differ from the days of old?
Well, I think John and Guy did a really excellent job of kind of describing why one would want to bundle. I think, as interesting as the why is the how the bundle will be constructed. And Yale did a really excellent job teeing me up here by showing exactly how Fubo or a kind of prototypical virtual MVPD would consider itself a bundler. Of course it is. You of course have big bundles like the Disney bundle, and now it's getting even bigger with Max. And you know, the proof is in the pudding there. It basically it works, right? If you look at the Disney bundle versus the Disney standalone subscriber, there's about a two plus churn percentage improvement, and versus a more seasonal or ad hoc service, there's about a 7% versus ESPN Plus, standalone churn improvement. But frankly, there's the kind of Fubo method. There's the synthetic bundle of a number of services coming together. Frankly, the biggest bundle is one I don't think people even talk about as bundle, which is the channels environment. And 70% of all specialty services are coming within Amazon. It's not as high for the premium ones, of course, but Amazon itself may be considered a bundler. So I think how is, as interesting as the question is why.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Ramiz. I think, how do we define the difference between aggregator and bundler when really to the consumer it's just a single source, right, for consumption?